Team 3, Victoria's Secret. Our team members are Aldo Lopez, Declan Green, Tanya Birdie, Amy Reed, Michael Field and Thomas Farley. What does a crisis demand from leaders? Objectives: conceptualize leadership and crisis, discuss the importance of leadership in times of crisis, identify leadership styles, analyse leadership style theories by applying them to relevant scenarios of a crisis, analyse leadership styles by using the 5-factor model, assess the situational effectiveness of each leadership style in resolving a crisis. Nordhaus describes the traditional view of leadership as a process towards goal attainment that occurs in a social context. Bennis and Nanus describe leadership in a more unconventional way, stating it is like an abominable snowman where footprints are everywhere, yet it is nowhere to be seen. Fink describes a crisis as a critical and delicate period which is usually associated with detrimental circumstances. Fink describes the characteristics of a crisis as demand for urgency amongst managers, demand for change, for example, strategic change or change of personnel. Augment in the importance of internal impersonal relationships. Individuals may gain self-orientated mindsets and behaviours. The role of a leader is extremely important during times of crisis. Their actions can make a monumental difference in resolving the problem. Clan suggests that leaders are very important during a crisis as they are relied upon to provide guidance. He then proceeds to give 3 additional reasons to why leaders are important during a crisis. Firstly, they can use their leadership style to bring something new to the table. Secondly, they are in a position to motivate and empower their employees and colleagues. Thirdly, they are thought as the person within the organisation that should identify and solve problems.
What is transformational leadership? Transformational leadership is a style of leadership that aims to create a connection between leaders and followers to encourage an increase in motivation and morality. This allows both the leader and the followers to work together towards shared goals or visions. This type of leadership will be useful during a crisis situation as it allows leaders and followers to work together to best approach a crisis and resolve it. Transformational leadership can be demonstrated using a scenario from an earthquake that struck China on May 12, 2008 as an example. At the time of the crisis, many leaders, including the hospital director, Mr. Hu, led a team of associates to help get people to safety. Although this scenario does not concern the rebuilding of the country, it does concern leaders who use transformational leadership to motivate and encourage their followers to help those in need. Mr. Hu, along with the other leaders, demonstrated characteristics implemented by transformational leaders. They demonstrated self-sacrificial behaviour by putting the needs of others before their own. This behaviour influenced followers to join their leader to work towards a shared goal to help those in need, as shown in an article by Zhang and his team. Followers looked to their leaders for direction, Resources and human capital were allocated appropriately by the leaders efficiently. Leaders were visionaries, working with followers in hope of expectations of a bright future. These characteristics are some of the characteristics that are present within transformational leaders that have been theorized by famous authors and researchers. Transformational leadership can be considered a useful approach during a crisis for many reasons. The main reason is the cooperation between leaders and followers. Leaders have the ability to engage groups of followers to work towards a shared goal or vision to get through a crisis. Also, it allows the quick distribution of resources and human capital through task delegation to followers, and followers are kept motivated and encouraged to work to their full potential. Leaders that can properly adopt this style of leadership are able to maintain respect from followers. Leaders that are highly respected by their followers can motivate and encourage them to change visions and goals when required. This is particularly useful during a crisis situation, as followers' perceptions can be changed to work towards new visions and goals with their leaders that would get them through the crisis.
Pseudo-transformational leadership style. A definition. Pseudo-transformational leadership, as described by Barling, Christie and Turner, is a manifestation of a combination of transformational leadership behaviours, and is differentiated from both transformation and leadership and laissez-faire leadership, otherwise known as non-leadership style. Analysis of leadership styles in a time of crisis. Pseudo-transformational leadership. When analysing the idea of a pseudo-transformational leader in a time of crisis, we look at Bass and Steidelmeier and their view that a pseudo-transformational leader is abusive of the power that they have been given. As well as being abusive of the power gained, pseudo-leaders have tendency to dismiss others' inputs to ideas and take credit if they are successful. Whereas if the idea thought of by an individual pseudo-leader was not successful, research from Bass and Steidelmeier showed that the leader will blame other individuals for the failure of the idea rather than blame themselves for the failure. Ashforth, Frone and Tepper, authors of Leadership, argue that an individual who conforms to the traits of a pseudo-transformational leader is a likely candidate for someone who is abusive of power and supervision of others, as well as an individual who is poor at being self-critical of personal failures. An example of a pseudo-transformational leader can be seen with Adolf Hitler. Hitler was a transformational leader, however was understood to have displayed many traits of that of a pseudo-transformational leader. Examples of traits displayed by Hitler that conformed with pseudo-transformational leadership was passing on the blame of the Great Depression. In order to make the German people support him, Hitler blamed the Great Depression of 1929 down to others rather than the German public, creating hysteria. He was abusive of his power when he was in charge of Germany, and this was shown with the rise of the Nazi Party and the murdering of thousands. Hitler was not very open to experience. He was very set in his ways of leading and would stick to his own methods without considering others, which is seen as a trait of pseudo-transformational leadership.
Transactional leadership is defined as a leadership style that focuses on results and one that conforms to the existing structure of an organisation. It measures success according to an organisation's system of rewards and penalties. Staff are trained to work through either the pride in rewards or the fear of penalties. The feelings and self-motivation of the workforce are not as important, as results always come first. The transactional leader has formal authority and a position of responsibility within an organisation. This type of leader has responsibilities such as maintaining routine by managing an individual's performance and also facilitating group performance. They define expectations and promote performance. The characteristics of a transactional leader are as follows. They are focused on short-term goals, they favour structured policies and procedures, thrive on following rules and making sure things are done correctly, they revel in efficiency, tend to be more inflexible due to the fact that they focus on the short term, they are opposed to change and will only intervene in a situation if it is demanded. Examples of transactional leaders in crisis. A transactional leader is more likely to succeed in a crisis that requires linear and specific processes, ones that are results driven and need someone who can focus on the crisis using structured analysis and procedures. Hewlett-Packard are a good example, as they are a company known for their extensive use of management by exception. Other examples are high-level members of the military, CEOs of big corporations and coaches from aspects such as NFL and NBA. A good example of a transactional leader in times of a crisis is the story of Catherine Peng. In March 2013, it was reported that Volkswagen was selling cars with faulty gearboxes, and there started the crisis at Volkswagen. The situation was said to be one that could have cost the company millions of pounds in losses. However, the leadership behaviours of Catherine Peng, who had only been on the job 2 months, meant that Volkswagen could overcome the crisis. Catherine Peng set goals for the company to follow in order to overcome the disaster. First, she apologised to Chinese customers, then had everyone at the company work hard to ensure that the 380,000 cars were recalled. All affected cars had complete repairs to the gearbox at no cost to the customer. Volkswagen then later announced a programme that would deal with the issues in the gearbox. Should further issues happen, they would be resolved quickly. After this, Catherine Peng organised one-on-one meetings with top management and employees in the company in order to set out a plan in case any future risk occurred. This meant if a problem occurred, there was already a plan in place to understand how it could be fixed quickly to avoid future crisis. The measures taken showed Peng's abilities to follow procedures and a set of policies in order to avoid further crisis. In 2014, Catherine Peng was named the Woman to Watch due to her structured plan to ensure the future success of the company. Over the period of the following few months, Peng was in talks with her top management and employees to ensure that performance in the company was high, and this was therefore rewarded. These plans ensured that the company would continue to be successful and avoid big problems in the future.
What is the 5-factor model? The 5-factor model is a model that shows the 5 most important personality traits that an individual might demonstrate. Discovered by researchers Lewis Goldberg, Robert McRae and Paul Costa, the model was used to identify the traits of an effective leader. The model consists of 5 traits: extroversion, agreeableness, openness to experience, neuroticism and conscientiousness. A personality test is used to determine the effective leadership traits an individual might possess. Each trait is scored from high to low. Certain combinations can be used to determine whether an individual is suitable for a specific job role or leadership style. The crisis situations mentioned earlier are demonstrations of some of these traits being implemented for different leadership styles.
After carefully reviewing all crises, the most attractive factors that appeal to the most favourable leadership style is authentic transformational leadership. Pseudo-transformational leaders are egocentric in terms of getting themselves out of a crisis rather than working with a team, whereas authentic transformational leadership are highly sought as they work with followers on their side. This is best used in a crisis as it provides a team-based input in surviving a crisis. This is the most favourable leadership style because its foundations are based on motivating and inspiring their followers at the most difficult of times. Furthermore, it provides strong external relationships that may be useful in crisis times, such as trading resources, working with other leaders, and having a trustworthy reputation. Authentic leaders are more likely to exhibit behaviours in correspondence to dealing with crises. These behaviours include promoting high morales throughout the workplace in times of crises, motivating and uplifting their followers, and providing realistic strategies for a positive change. Authentic leadership is most favourable as followers look for guidance from their leaders, and authentic leaders are able to provide this. Leaders who obtain these attributes are most likely to gain respect, commitment, and loyal followers. Therefore, leaders with these traits are able to take control and manage a situation. Authentic leaders are more likely to obtain respect and admiration from their leaders as they are usually considered positive role models within a crisis situation. Authentic transformational leaders have the ability to motivate and inspire their followers. Furthermore, they are able to develop their followers' skills and recognize the value of education and knowledge within the workplace. Northouse also suggested that authentic transformational leaders are able to work together with their followers to benefit from a crisis and to overcome it. This can be seen in the crisis caused by the earthquake in China. Authentic transformational leadership styles are most favorable within a crisis as they bring a broken team together to overcome a crisis, thus bringing a team back together in the most stressful of times. It is recommended that the best leadership approach should be undertaken on the basis of how employees work best. For example, a transactional leadership approach should be adopted when employees are driven by money and are performance and goal orientated. If employees are not driven by money, then the best type of leadership that could be adopted should be a transactional leadership approach. Maxwell suggested the biggest way to impact an organization is to focus on transformational leadership. So if there is a high input of transformational leadership which have been adopted, then there can be no limit for the amount of motivation input a team can put into defeating a crisis. If an organization holds these values, they are highly able to demonstrate high levels of capabilities that can project high levels of work outputted by the team. If an organization is beginning to fall and is currently within a crisis, they should adopt traits from the transformational leadership attributes so they can inspire their followers and keep morales high, which will conclude into exiting the crisis as a team and not as individuals. Even though most crises cannot be predicted, it is highly recommended that organizations are prepared by having leaders who are able to cope and manage in these stressful situations. Furthermore, it will be less time-consuming to have a leader within the company, as the employees will already have formed a relationship with them and then can deal with the crisis. In order to be a successful leader, an individual can pursue to adopt traits from all three leadership styles, and if applied effectively, it can result in successful leadership. Evidence has shown that at least one trait in each style has led to a part of a leader's failure. For example, Hitler's openness to experience, amongst other things, has created the fall of the Reich. There are many other reasons why an individual's personality has a lot to do with their style of leadership. Each leadership style can be related to an individual's way of leading. This is very important as they will need to find the best leadership style that suits their individual characteristics, as they will need to work with their followers to defeat a crisis. Therefore, their followers would have to be motivated enough to project work that is of high standards for the leader in order to positively deal with the crisis.